Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down the 6-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. If you tuned in yesterday, hopefully you played some Rafael Devers, my home run call of the day, going deep again. So we nailed a couple of those recently. We nailed Pete Alonso the other day, and then now we have Rafael Devers. So looking to keep it on a roll. If you're new to the channel and you do enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, I would greatly appreciate that. And then you can check out my KJK DFS MLB package, link below in the description. You get access to all my sheets, my hot hitter StatCast data tools, my splits leaderboard, team hitting data, bullpen data, power rankings, cheat sheet, and my top stacks. So good stuff going on. Check that link below if you are getting serious about MLB DFS. I would highly recommend it if you're playing every single day. I think it's going to help you become very profitable throughout the season. And then, as mentioned, do not forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day. And with all of that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. As always, I like to go ahead and break down the pitchers we're going to want to play and then followed by the bats. And for pitchers, we like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today in K rate is going to be Charlie Morton. Taking on these Philadelphia Phillies, he comes in with a 29.2% K rate, 12.9 swing strike rate. Ground ball and fly ball stuff's pretty respectable. 25.8% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 32.7% K rate against lefties. So kind of a rare breed in the sense that he is a right-handed pitcher himself, but strikes out more of lefties rather than righties. And he is taking on the Philadelphia Phillies today and Zach Wheeler. He's a 127 favorite, so expected to be a pretty close game here. And as far as his matchup taking on these Phillies, not the best as far as having to face the talent in this lineup, but overall, as far as strikeouts are concerned, there are plenty of strikeouts to go around in this order. And there are quite a few lefties. Well, there's 3 lefties, but we'll take what we can get. Didi Gregorius, Bryce Harper, and Adam Haseley. Of course, Bryce Harper and Didi Gregorius aren't really exactly the best lefties you'd like to target, but there are strikeouts to be had, and if Charlie Morton can throw up by them, have no issues with you going to him on this slate. He's priced at 7.5 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced at 7.9. So clearly, he's not even priced to be near the top pitcher of the slate. And he's got the top K rate over the last 2 years out of anyone on the board. So just keep that in mind. I do think he's a viable option for sure. Now, of course, there's other guys that are going to be priced up a little higher that we could be looking to as well. Andrew Heaney, second on the slate to get on the Toronto Blue Jays, comes in with a 27.3% K rate, a 13.5 swinging strike rate. Ground ball and fly ball stuff is not the best. He gives up a lot of hard contact to right-handed hitting specifically. 27.4% K rate against those righties, and then against lefties, it's a 26.8% K rate, but he's much better as far as the ground ball, fly ball stuff is concerned against left-handed hitting. Does have his fair share of giving up hard contact issues to the right-handed side of the plate, which is a little concerning considering he's taking on this Toronto Blue Jays team today who features a lot of righties. You got Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Luis Gurriel, Randall Grichuk, Kirk, and Davis, all right-handed hitting practically. There's literally one lefty in the lineup. So while Andrew Heaney does have plenty of upside, he is a very risky option, so I would recommend him for tournaments, but tournaments only. Probably not looking to play this guy in cash games. So that's my recommendation there. And then moving further along, we got Lance McCullers Jr. taking on the Oakland Athletics, a 25.5% K rate. Great ground ball and fly ball stuff out of Lance McCullers. Does a great job of keeping the ball on the ground. Against righties, he has a 23% K rate. Great ground ball and fly ball stuff. And then against lefties, he has a 28% K rate. And great ground ball fly ball stuff. Similar to Charlie Morton, actually accelerates more against left-handed pitching left-handed hitting when it comes to strikeouts. And he's probably not going to get a lot of that taking on these Oakland Athletics today, unfortunately. But there are plenty of strikeouts to go around in this lineup. They got Matt Olson, who does have a pretty high K rate as a lefty. Mitch Moreland, who has a pretty high K rate as a lefty. Jed Lowry. So those are the 3 lefties you're looking at. But then they got Mark Canha, Ramon Laureano, Matt Chapman, Sean Murphy. All have pretty high K rates as right-handed hitters as well. So I do think that Lance McCullers is definitely an interesting option on this slate today. Like, I would feel much better going to him than I would going to an Andrew Heaney, who we just discussed had a higher K rate, but the matchup overall just kind of scares me a little bit. Not that Andrew Heaney can't get there, like I said. Of course, he can go out there and have a big game, but there's also a far more likely chance that he gets blown up. So Lance McCullers priced at $9K on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, he's priced at $9.1, second most expensive pitcher on the slate, and I do think for good reason. Could definitely be going to him today. Tyler Mahle taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks, a 25.4% carry overall, a 28.4% K rate against righties, absolutely elite stuff. But if you've been playing DFS for some time, you know that Tyler Mahle really struggles against left-handed hitting. So he's very splits reliant, taking on these Arizona Diamondbacks today as far as how many righties they're looking to roll out. They're going to have quite a few lefties, which immediately makes me slightly concerned. And then you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks run total, and they have a 4.49 implied run total. So always has the upside similar to Andrew Heaney. We're dealing with two guys that have plenty of strikeout upside, but plenty of risk based upon their matchup today. And that same rule applies to Tyler Mahle. 8-4 on FanDuel over on DraftKings. He comes in with a 7.5 price tag. So him and Heaney are going to be kind of the diamond in the rough options if you want to really be risky, but also I'd have interest in the bats. I'd be playing bats against them and pitching them if I'm playing multiple lineups. And then Joe Musgrove taking on the Texas Rangers, a 24.3% K rate overall. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's pretty respectable. A 26.6% K rate against righties, and then a 22.1% K rate against lefties. Finally, somewhat of a, a quote-unquote normal pitcher, has more of a K rate against the same handedness hitter as he has. Taking on these Texas Rangers. As far as the Vegas lines are concerned, Texas is predicted to have, they have a 3.76 implied run total. So Vegas likes Joe Musgrove to get the win here by quite some margin, a 195 favorite. And there are plenty of strikeouts to go around in this Texas lineup. There are a lot of lefties, though, so I just had mentioned, his K rate does dip against lefties. But the good news is a lot of these lefties have high K rates. I mean, you're taking on guys like David Dahl, Joey Gallo, Nate Lowe, Ronald Guzman, all are a bunch of really, really sluggers, but high K rate. So, I mean, they can hit the ball out of the park, 450 feet, but they can also strike out a bunch. And I think that's where Joe Musgrove can capitalize and really have a high upside game. And then once you move on past him, we're looking to a few guys that aren't exactly popping on my sheet necessarily. Like Taylor Widener is the next guy that's popping, taking on the Cincinnati Reds. I will be the first to say that I'm not really looking to go there. Two guys that I have really remaining to have interest in are Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler, as far as K rate concern, is way down on my sheet. He doesn't even grade out that well as far as Sierra is concerned either, ironically, but you could argue he's maybe the best option on the slate. A 22.7% K rate, great ground ball, fly ball stuff, hard hit rate. 23% K rate against righties, and then a 22.2% K rate against lefties. And he gets to take on an Atlanta team that has really been struggling out of the gates. Atlanta's not typically the team that we're going to get all excited to target, but when you're looking at their numbers so far in the season, they've been real bad. Looking at my team hitting data sheet and going to Atlanta, they have the second worst K rate in the league. Right behind Baltimore, so a 32.5% K rate, and then specifically looking at their K rate against right-handed pitching, it's a 30.9% K rate. Just really, really struggling. So I think that this is a situation where, ironically, although it's a scary matchup, it might be a good one. So Zach Wheeler, definitely going to have some interest in him. There's a little bit of weather concern. I don't think it's going to be an issue. He's priced up to 10.5 on FanDuel. He's priced at 8.8 on DraftKings. That's my only concern on FanDuel. He's priced way up. Doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but FanDuel's bats are so mispriced, it probably doesn't matter. You can still fit him in really easily. So have interest there. And lastly, the guy that's priced up the most on DraftKings is Zach Plesac. He's priced at the 9.6, and he's the last option you'll be going to because he's taking on the Detroit Tigers, who strike out their fair share. Looking at my team hitting data sheet that we just pulled up, Detroit number 9 in strikeout rate, 9th worst in the league. So I have no issues with you targeting Plesac. The only issue is, he's not exactly the most elite arm. A 21.1% K rate, ground ball and fly ball stuff's really not the greatest. Against righties, he's pretty respectable, but not good. 21.6% K rate against righties, and then against lefties, the slugging and the wOBA gets a lot better, but the ground ball and the fly ball stuff's still terrible. So he might garner some ownership because he's taking on the Tigers. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind stacking up these Tigers in tournaments, but we'll get to that right now because we're going to transition over to bats. As always, I like to sort my sheet by Sierra, the worst to the best. And the top guy right here that we have is Kohei Arihara taking on the San Diego Padres. We have a very small sample size with him. He's only pitched 5 innings, and he's looked terrible, so it makes it seem like he's like the top guy to target on the slate. And while I am not scared to target him whatsoever, this data is somewhat making it so the rest of the data on my pitcher sheet is really sticking out as being not as bad as it is. So we're going to actually remove him as we go along this breakdown. But overall, he's been really bad against righties. Against lefties, he's been better. It's 5 innings with pitch sample size. That means nothing to us, really. Just target the good bats on this San Diego squad. They're expected to get Trent Grisham back. That's a big deal because, as we know, Fernando Tatis got hurt and he's going to be out for quite some time. So another big bat to add to the San Diego Padres lineup. We got Trent Grisham, Tommy Pham, Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers, Jake Cronenworth. Definitely going to have some interest in the heart of this order and targeting these guys in stacks. A 5.24 implied run total. They get to go into Texas, which is a pretty good hitting environment. And they are the road team, which means no matter what happens in the 9th inning, they're going to get to hit even if they're ahead in the game, which is always a nice little bonus in DFS. You get that guaranteed 9th inning at bat. But yeah, so that you can definitely be looking at them. And then, as I said, I'm going to go ahead and actually remove him from my sheet so that we can really focus on these other numbers of these other pitchers because I do think that him being on there is going to not show how much we can capitalize on those guys. And the first guy I want to talk about is Julio Tehran. Specifically, right now with Julio Tehran, we're dealing with a 5.26 Sierra, 20% K rate, 8.7 swing strike rate, 38.3% ground ball rate, a 40.4 fly ball rate, not good. 21.5% K rate against righties, not less than impressive. He has a 321 WOBA against righties, a 425 slugging against righties. And then against lefties, it dips down to a 441 slugging, a 39.9% hard hit rate, a 338 WOBA. Ground ball and fly ball stuff's terrible. And Julio Tehran is just way past his prime, so very bad. We can definitely have interest in these Cleveland Indians. And then when I go ahead and I take a look at the weather in Cleveland today, I see that there are 72 degrees temperatures with a 13-mile-an-hour wind blowing out the straightaway center. So I think that this is going to be a great environment, especially targeting Julio Tehran. We're not scared of the Tigers bullpen either. And yes, definitely going to like these Cleveland Indians today. We got Ben Gamel, Cesar Hernandez. My 2 favorites are going to be Jose Ramirez and Eddie Rosario in the middle of the order. Franmil Reyes at 2.8. Josh Naylor down there at 2.5 on FanDuel. Jacob Bowers. Josh Naylor and Jacob Bowers specifically, 2 lefties that have a ton of pop. You just have to worry about their strikeout issues. And they're taking on a guy that can't really strike anyone out. So that's a great recipe for success there. Like both those guys a bunch. And definitely going to have some interest in this Cleveland Indians stack today. Moving further along, next on the list, worse than Sierra, we got TJ Zuke taking on the Los Angeles Angels. A 14.9% K rate, 8.7 swing strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's good. Against righties, he does look really solid across the board as far as ground ball, fly ball, WOBA. Slugging's not the best, but he does do a good job of limiting that hard contact. And then against lefties, he gets a little bit worse. The WOBA and the hard contact rate, not the greatest. But overall, the guy's got a really big issue against walking left-handed bats. And he just doesn't strike anyone out. So the ball's going to be put in play. I mean, like I said, really good against right-handed bats. But when you're dealing with a guy like Mike Trout, we don't really necessarily care because you can't get anyone out, and the ball's still going to be put in play. So, I'm not going to talk you off an elite bat like him. But more specifically, we would prefer those lefties, guys like a Shohei Ohtani, a Jared Walsh. Really going to be standing out to me today. And then, like I said, of course, the best hitters in the lineup you don't want to leave out of your stack. So a guy like a Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon, I have no issues with. Just know that he is better against righties when it comes to the hard contact category. Taylor Widener taking on the Cincinnati Reds, one of the hottest teams in the league. And if you're looking at Widener's stats, 26 innings pitch sample size, not the largest, but enough that we can at least run with a little bit of something. Bad in the K rate, bad in the ground ball, fly ball, bad in the walk, bad in the hard hit rate against righties. He goes with 250 slugging, so that's pretty respectable. Even though the fly ball, the hard contact, and the ground ball is still bad, but against lefties, he has been very, very bad. A 585 slugging, 397 WOBA, 43.3% fly ball rate, 36.7% ground ball rate. And the Cincinnati Reds do have some bats that can hit from both sides of the plate, but specifically, like I said, with his lefty issues, I'm going to have a ton of interest in Mike Moustakas. In the 5 spot for the Cincinnati Reds, get tons of power from the left-handed side of the plate. Joey Votto, Tyler Naquin. There's a possibility that Jesse Winker's going to be back soon, so whether he cracks the lineup or not, we'll have to keep an eye on. But, yeah, really going to like this Reds team. I mean, I still like Nick Castellanos, of course, the hottest hitter in the league right now, coming out just on fire, home run every single day, it seems. So, going to have interest in him. And then Eugenio Suarez. In the 4 spot as well, great option, guy that can slug. So really like that 2 through 5 range. Really the 1 through 5 range, and then of course I have no issues with you going to a Nick Senzel, a Jonathan India, or a Tucker Barnhart. I mean, Tucker Barnhart would be by far my least favorite, but he is a lefty. Maybe he can get lucky and hit one out of the ballpark, and he is a catcher, so over on DraftKings where you got to play that catcher spot, I have no issues with throwing him in your stacks and feeling pretty good about it. He's only 2.6, gets to take on a pitcher that's not too good. I'm not going to talk you off doing that, so it makes a lot of sense. Zach Plezak's the next guy on my list. That's not really the best, and we were just talking about possibly playing him. He's priced up as the most expensive guy on the slate, and it is for that reason. And I think that we can really look at the Tiger stack today. I think it could be one of the most beneficiary things for you to do on the slate if people are really going to play this guy at a high rate. I mean, the Tigers aren't the best lineup in the world, but this guy doesn't have the best stuff. A 421 slugging against righties, 296 WOBA against righties, not really impressive. And then you go over to lefties. He's actually been better against left-handed hitting, ironically, with the slugging, the WOBA, and the hard contact. So keep that in mind. We do prefer to target the righties if at all possible. And when looking at the Detroit Tigers lineup today, we are looking at, quite a few lefties, to be honest. You got Miggy Cabrera in the 3 spot as a right-handed hitter, Jonathan Scope in the 6 spot as a right-handed hitter, Wilson Ramos. But overall, they're all lefties, so just keep that in mind if you are stacking them up. But we got a guy down here in Akil Baddoo that's been really, really hot out of the gates. And looks real good in his rookie campaign for these Detroit Tigers, so you could be playing him. Willie Castro in the 2 spot has plenty of power. Jaime Candelario can get into 1. Nomar Mazara has a bunch of power in the 5 spot. So I, for one, am not going to be one to really be all that high on Zach Plezak, and I don't have an issue with you playing the Tigers in tournaments, especially considering we have 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the straightaway center. No issues with that whatsoever. And then once we get past Plezak, it really comes down to some split issues. I had mentioned Tyler Mahle and his issues specifically, as well as Andrew Heaney. So we'll cover those 2 guys real quick because they're really my last 2 favorite guys to target with their particular splits issues. So first, Tyler Mahle. I'd mentioned he has some real issues against left-handed hitting. If you look at his numbers against righties, it's not the greatest either when it comes to the slugging, but the ground ball, the fly ball, the walk rate, and the K rate's really good. But against lefties across the board, he's just really not impressive. A 471 slugging, giving up a 42% fly ball rate, 40.8% ground ball rate. Does not do well against left-handed hitting, and it is for that reason that I'm definitely going to have some interest in these Arizona Diamondbacks. Today, I'm going to like all the lefties. Josh Van Meter, David Peralta, Pavin Smith, Eduardo Escobar, Josh Rojas. Any single lefty that cracks the lineup, I will have interest in today. Josh Van Meter has the most pop. David Peralta is my favorite option by far in the 4 spot. But then you got Eduardo Escobar, who's a good hitter as well, Josh Rojas. And like I said, really any single lefty in this lineup, I'm going to have some interest in. And then Andrew Heaney, the last guy that I'll talk about here, does have some issues against right-handed hitting. You can see very clearly on my sheet, not good numbers. And it's across the board. Ground ball, fly ball, WOBA, hard hit rate, slugging, all bad against righties. The K rate's really good, so he will strike out his fair share of hitters. But when he doesn't strike you out and you hit from the right-hand side of the plate, if you can hit with any sort of power, the ball's probably going to go a long way for you. It's going to come off the bat hot. So we're definitely going to have some interest in these Toronto Blue Jays. And they have plenty of guys that can hit the ball hard. So Marcus Semien, great against left-handed pitching. We got Bo Bichette, great option. A little bit better against righties himself, but we'll still take it. Teoscar Hernandez, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., both really great against lefties, as well does Lourdes Gurriel and Randall Grichuk. So like that range right there, love every single one of those guys. And then you got Alejandro Kirk in the catcher spot and Jonathan Davis. I have no issues with stacking up these Blue Jays today, and they're going to be the last team I talk about. So that is my overall breakdown of this 6-game slate. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Mike Moustakas taking on Taylor Widener. I had mentioned his issues against left-handed hitting, a 36.7% ground ball rate, 43.3% fly ball rate, 397 WOBA with a 585 slugging. That is not good and is going to cause issues when you have to take on an elite hitter like Mike Moustakas. And then breaking down what Widener throws. Overall, throws about a 95-mile-an-hour fastball on average, 94.46 miles an hour. When looking at how Mike Moustakas fares against that pitch, we're talking a 469 WOBA with a 297 ISO. against the slider and the changeup that he also throws. First, breaking down the slider, Mike Moustakas features a 268 ISO against that pitch, a 331 WOBA. Not going to like to face Mike Moustakas with those stats. And then lastly, the changeup, Moustakas crushes as well. A 357 ISO with a 367 WOBA. Smashes every single one of his pitches. As mentioned with Widener's issues against lefties, going to love Mike Moustakas tonight. And he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Mike Moustakas. Get him in your lineups. And that is all for me on this one. If you enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. I would greatly appreciate that. And then don't forget to check out my KJK DFS MLB package, link below in the description. I wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.